Welcome to Sisters Inc., our podcast for and about women business owners, brought to you by Black Enterprise. I'm your host, Elisa Gums. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. And on every episode of Sisters Inc., we'll sit down with one successful CEO and share how she slays the challenges of being a Black woman in business. Today's episode is all about redefining success as you age. We're chatting with Melva LaJoy Legrand, an award-winning event expert and the founder, owner, and lead event designer of event planning firm LaJoy Plans. Welcome to Sisters Inc., Melva, and thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful and honored to be here.
You've had your own events company for almost 20 years now. What drew you to events, and what has kept you there for the past 2 decades?
I'll start with the second part of the question. I have to say a lot of grace and a lot of grit has definitely kept me. But what drew me is I like to say event planning and myself have been in the longest love relationship for over 20 years, longer than my beloved husband. And, for me, what it is and what it continues to be is a couple of things. Every day is new and interesting. I have the opportunity to meet and be in partnership and community with amazingly talented, dynamic individuals. Now, at this stage, I have the opportunity to mentor the next generation. But when I think about the power of events, and I think we're all still experiencing that after COVID, there is power in community, there is power in connection, and people need people. And events to me are magic. They can galvanize, they can inspire, they can do so many things. And I have the proof because I've done it for some time. And so I think that's what keeps me, knowing that when it's my time, and it's not anytime soon, to leave this earth, I have used my gift of strategic events management to drop little seeds of joy, to drop little seeds of possibility. So I left the world a better place. That's what I believe.
Wow, that is a calling for sure.
Oh, 100%. I am living out my unique calling, and I'm so glad. I think sometimes we have a list of the career that we're supposed to have, or in my case, you have a list of the man you're supposed to have, which is not the focus of this podcast. But I think that when you meet your purpose, even if you're thinking it's not the right time, it's not the right income, it's not the right set of circumstances, the best thing you can do is lean into that. And I'm living out my calling 100%.
Over that long of a career, there are tons of ups and downs. You relaunched the business in 2019. You've had to rebuild it post pandemic. What has this journey been like for you?
The honest answer, humbling. Humbling and empowering. I think in 2019, it is not a secret that I relaunched with the money that was in my pocket. I was in a different stage of life. I was newly and unexpectedly single, and I had to hit the pavement in a different way to really make this business take life. And so I did that in 2019. I was, as they say, OUT, I was out. But because I had a life break in the industry, it meant that I was reintroducing myself. It meant that not everybody was rushing to connect with me, and yet I still had to show up as my authentic self and push through the new climate in the DC metropolitan area. And so I did all of that. I was ready for a great 2020. And then I watched all of it go away to the tune of 99%. And we won't even talk about my account balance. So that part was humbling. But what was empowering is I started to think about my life overall, and I think you can relate, and a lot of others can relate. There are moments where you confront the thing that feels impossible, and then years later, you talk about how you made it through. And so for me, every day in 2020 post COVID, I would get dressed and prepare for a meeting, even though nobody was talking to me, because I just believed in the possibility if I continued to push through. And what ended up happening is we know what happened with COVID, but for me and my business, every year we have grown in a tremendous way. And I believe it's because I was patient. It was because I saw the possibility, even if it wasn't materializing immediately. And I think it's because I have this phrase, it's called push. It's not my phrase. Someone said it to me, and it said, pray until something happens. And for those where that doesn't work, I would say persist until something happens. And that's what I did. That's what I did.
You mentioned being at a different stage of life. Looking at it from this perspective, if the pandemic had happened to you when you were younger, do you think you would have responded to it differently as an entrepreneur?
I don't know that I would have. I mean, I think I have to credit my parents, Melvin and Joyce, Melvin, who I'm named after, for instilling in me a can't quit, won't quit type of fire. But I think the blessing of maturing or aging, and I don't mean numerical, but just progressing in your career, is that now I am fully tapped into my sense of knowing. My discretion is high, my clarity is high. I know what I know, and what I don't know, I'm okay with. And P.S., I like myself. So, as a not in an arrogant way, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm what's the phrase? I'm that girl. Yeah, pretty much.
You're her.
I'm her, full stop, full sentence. But I think early in my career, I was probably more in a people pleasing posture. I was probably more in a let me do the thing that gets me noticed posture. And I think the pandemic would have had me pivot to the trendy thing versus pivot or wait for my purpose to reacquaint itself with me, if that makes sense. So I think it would have been different. Would I have found my way eventually? Sure. But now I don't worry about what's trendy. I don't worry about what other people think in the same way. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just worried about working in and being in my purpose. And I'm willing to wait for it.
Yeah. Patience, I think, is one of those things that comes with maturing in your
Yes,
business,
yes,
for sure.
100%.
Many of the accolades that you've received have come recently. In fact, this year you were named one of Smart Meeting's Women Entrepreneurs of the Year. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Do you feel like you're hitting a stride at this stage of your life?
100%. I mean, I think, actually, not I think, I know this was 20 plus years in the making, and it's just my turn. And I'm actually glad it didn't happen sooner. Like, people look back and would you change anything? No, I would do all of it again in the exact same way because now I have the ability to be grateful in a way that I don't know would have been available to me if it happened sooner. And so I'm tickled that it's happening now. It feels like a renaissance. I'm like a kid in the candy store, and I don't take any of it for granted. I don't know that it's that I've hit a new stride. I think what is real is I told myself early on that I would do good work, that I would pour into people, that I would honor the legacy of the prayers that I know my parents and ancestors prayed even before I was a little thought. And I planted all of the seeds, right? So now it's my harvest time, and I'm grateful. And I think for CEOs, for women, for leaders, what I would say is it's not about the awards. Now, I like the awards, amen. I like the awards, but it's more about how are you every day planting seeds? Because if you are every day planting seeds, I guarantee you it may take 20 plus years, but your harvest will come. And I'm just in my harvest.
Yeah. Growing older usually brings us new perspectives. How has your definition of success changed over the years?
Ooh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. So I would say for me, success is about impact, and it's not about influence. It's going back to that trendy notion. I don't need to be attributed in all of the ways, because I look at some of my mentees and I see what they're doing in their career, or I look at some of the clients we have with LaJoy plans, and I see what they're doing, and I know on the sidelines that bit by bit I've had impact. And that's enough for me. The other thing that I would say is that I definitely didn't have early in my career. Success looks like prioritizing my mental health and not being so obsessed with being busy, with being in this overwork, go mindset, but being okay with boundaries, being okay with a vacation, being okay with turning the cell phone down and being in my life. So, success for me is about impact, it is about balance, it is about mental wellness, and it is also about service. So, and I think when you do those things, the income, the all of the things that I think we try to go after just naturally happen, because what I know to be sure is in life there is more flow when you force it less, and things just happen. And I think now I trust that even like the ebbs and flows, even the difficult days, I trust that they are all going to work to my benefit.
Did you always know that though? I mean, that's some people, right? Some people, I don't know how, but they seem to be like tapped into that their whole life. But you just said, force it less, trust the ebbs and flows. Those are hard lessons.
They are hard lessons. And as someone who heard those lessons, even probably like 10, 15 years ago, I would roll my eyes, especially when it came to love. You know, I was in a ridiculous amount of weddings. I went to my students' weddings. And when people would say, trust the process, he will meet you, I would fully roll my eyes. But I am here to tell you, and I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth, it's actually true. And the minute that I accepted where life was for me is the minute that my life expanded. The minute that I stopped envying somebody else's journey and focused on mine, things shifted for me. And the minute I started saying thank you, like thank you for that feedback, or thank you for that contract that didn't come through, or thank you for this mentor, or the moment I started actively practicing gratitude is the moment my world just became greater. But yeah, I rolled my eyes because I mean, in the US in particularly, we want it now. We want it now. We want it when everybody has it. And what we don't realize is the person that you're idolizing, like even now, people are like, wow, the awards, the da 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 da. But I don't know that they want the 20 plus years that it took to get here. So it's better, I think, and I have come to believe, to be in your life right now.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things that I think every entrepreneur can relate to: the grind mentality, the never take a vacation, never turn off your phone. Has your approach to entrepreneurship shifted as you've aged?
100%. And let me say this, what I have done differently is I have said no as a complete sentence. I think when you're starting out, especially if you need money, you do all the things. I did all of the things. You do all of the things all of the time at whatever rate because you need the money, you need the referrals, you need the this. And now I say no as a complete sentence because I've realized that if you keep giving it and if you give it below market value, guess what? People are going to buy it. Like it's not a shock. People are going to buy it. They're going to keep renewing it. They're going to ask for more. And in the moment, you tell yourself, I'm just going to talk about Melva LaJoy, like, I'm working, this is great, da 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 da. But eventually, you resent the work. Eventually, I'll talk about myself. You're a size 22. I am not a size 22 anymore. And eventually, you lose sight of why you did it in the first place. And so I think there is a time to grind, and I can't say for a specific person. I'm not a big fan of all of the books. I think some are okay because I don't pay your bills. I don't know your larger reality, but I do think everybody grinds, quote unquote, until a point, and then there's the moment where the shift happens. And for me, I'll tell you a story. This is going to blow your mind. My moment happened when a client of mine said to me, and I was tired. Oh, I was so tired, that the difference between the proposal that I put forth and the person that was the other finalist was over $50,000. And their advice to me was, and they picked me because why wouldn't cheap? I'm doing all of the things. They said, do yourself a favor, change that. Not not because of us, but because you actually deserve it. And it even took me years after that because of imposter syndrome, which is a whole nother topic. It took me years to justify the what I was charging and all of the things, even though I had the evidence that it was valid and it was true and I belonged in the room. And as a Black woman, I tell you this, as this Black woman, I am highly educated. I show up well. And P.S., I have to. I'm already in the room. I can't show up. People aren't going to like this. I can't show up at a meeting with wet hair and yoga pants. I can't. It is different. So why wouldn't I charge appropriately when my best is maybe somebody's average?
Yeah.
She was like, "Why did you say that?" She's like,
No,
"Cut."
not at all. I thank you so much for saying that because you are talking some real talk here about things that people often don't talk about. And that's what we like to get to. That's specifically for Black women entrepreneurs, about saying yes to so many things that you end up saying no to yourself. And um the results of that being that you resent the work that you dreamed of, the work that you built. And that's a real thing.
It's a real thing, and I think the only way to fix it is we have to decide that um, we deserve the same consideration. And I'm reminded by a fellow Black female entrepreneur who said to me, and this was before I was taking vacation in a serious way. She said, "You know how I plan my year?" And I said, "How?" And she says, "I plan it with my vacations in mind. And everything else I book around that." And so, me, like anxious, I was like, "But what about this? And how are you going to pay this?" She was like, "I figured out that if I don't do that, the money isn't worth it."
Mhm.
And I think I hate to say it, is it true that we have to work harder? I mean, there's all the data. We all know the data. Is it true that we are evaluated differently? Is it true that one mistake that we make compared to someone who does not have our racial gender identity can make 50 mistakes and it has the same impact? Yes. Those things are true. And so it is also true that we need rest, that we need to charge appropriately, that we need to be okay with using no within reason as a complete sentence, and that we don't need to apologize for our blackness dripped in excellence.
I am loving all this wisdom that has come with your experience. There are people I know who need to hear this today.
Yeah.
But yes, we're going to get back to aging because we just talked about how your approach has changed. On the flip side, do you think other people's perception of you as a business owner has changed as you've gotten older?
I do, but I think it's to my benefit. I think someone told me the other day that I give rich auntie vibes, and I'm going to take that as a compliment. But no, I think there is culturally a reverence for experience. I think there is an appreciation for authenticity. I think I know people as early as this morning that are tickled that I am who I am. I say what I say. I don't hurt anybody, but I'm also not apologizing for what I know. And so, in that regard, I think what is beautiful is I am the expert in the room. And so, some of the justifying, making the case, at this point, the case is made. If you need awards, got that. If you need degrees, have those too. And now let's get down to business. And if you need referrals, I got that too. Like now we get down to business in a different way. And, I think people respect when I say, there's a joke. I'm always in a dress. I love dresses. Thank you, Mom. That's because of you. And I tell people I will give you the best of me from the ankle up. Okay? We're not doing now. I love a stiletto. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. I'm not looking like a pigeon. I just own who I am and I think people respect it and respond to it.
I also know, though, that you think that just because we have become entrepreneurs of a certain age doesn't mean that we stop learning. Um, yes. Do you think that entrepreneurs need to be intentional about changing with the times and staying up to date so they can continue to be relevant?
100%. If I could sing like Michelle, like people think I can, I would. 100%. And I'll give you the example because I was not this way. I want to say up until 2018, I didn't have a website. People couldn't convince me that it mattered. Yeah, no, look confused. Yes, I was that person that you're talking about. And a member of my team, unbeknown to me, went on Weebly at the time and just created, like, you've got to have something. Because the reality is that to be in business is to be in the business of innovation. So if you are holding on to the way that you started, not even 10 years ago, 2 years ago, it's going to pass you by. It's going to pass you by. And so I think that there's that pairing of the things that that expertise, but in this climate, the popularity of marketing, social media. Now I'm trying to wrap my head around artificial intelligence. Like if you're not studying, I would venture to say eventually you won't be working. It's just that simple. You have got to be a constant learner. And I say to my husband, or we both say, the minute that I'm no longer curious is the minute for me to tap into all of my mentees who I said have to fund my retirement get a yacht, and travel the world with my husband. But you got to stay curious.
Yeah. And how do you get over that fear or the discomfort with new technologies and new ways of doing business?
I think a couple of things for me. It's been tapping into people who know more than me, people who know more than me that I trust and trust to be kind. I think sometimes any fear is rooted in the if I say I don't know, I'll look stupid, or lack of patience from the person who's teaching. So I am intentional. I think about the person who taught me Instagram, and I took my phone and I asked all of the questions as she walked me through how to do this, that, and the third, because I joined in, I think, 2019. And I remember my first post was like a picture, no captions. Like it was a mess. Let me just tell you, it was a mess. However, she was kind. And I think finding your people who have different skill sets that you don't have and tapping into those people and being humble enough to say, ah, I don't understand this. Can you walk me through this? Is what has been helpful for me.
Yeah. And tapping into your mentees, which is a point that you made earlier, which is so important for things like this. As we get more and more experienced and they learn from us, we can learn from them too.
Yes, 100%. It's a give and take. I was a teacher, and I like to think what I help my mentees with is writing. I am that one. You'll send me an email to come back, you won't even recognize it. And they'll exchange with me on things that they're, familiar with or experts. Here's the thing. No matter age or stage, I would venture to say that everybody has an expertise in something. For the more seasoned professional, I think our struggle is we don't admit what we don't know. And for the emerging professional, the struggle is believing that you know what you know. And so I think what the best thing we can offer each other is openness, because there's room for both of us to learn.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
You're
Melva, for sharing
so
your
welcome.
small business success story. Everyone out there, please take a look at the company website, lajoyplans.com. You can also follow them on Instagram at @BeLaJoyful or on YouTube at LaJoy Plans. Check out the podcast channel on blackenterprise.com to find Sisters Inc. and other podcasts from Black Enterprise editors, writers, and experts. Be sure to subscribe to Sisters Inc. on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or YouTube. And if you like what you hear, show us some love by leaving a 5-star review or put a sister on by spreading the word. I'm Elisa Gums with Sisters Inc. for Black Enterprise. Thank you for listening.